want to have, as part of the gun initiative, though, an informational campaign to really change the hearts and minds of people in Washington, D.C., and in particular our young people. They are saturated in the media and in entertainment, or by the entertainment industry, with violence. And I think too many of our young people, in particular our young men, are fascinated with violence, and in particular fascinated with guns. And what we need to do is change the way in which people think about guns, especially young people, and make it something that's not cool, that it's not acceptable, it's not hip to carry a gun anymore. In the way in which we've changed our attitudes about cigarettes. You know, when I was growing up, people smoked all the time. I mean, both my parents did. But over time, we changed the way in which people thought about smoking, and so now we have people who cower outside of buildings and kind of smoke in private and don't want to admit it. And that's what I think we need to do with guns, really change the way in which people think about guns. Now, this is not going to be something that's very easy to do, because we are, quite frankly, fighting something that appears, you know, every day on television, on the radio, in our popular music, in movies that these kids are exposed to. It will be an effort that will entail things that I'm really not familiar with. I think I'm a pretty good lawyer, but we need to get really innovative, creative things that are going to grab the attention of these kids and change, as I said, the way in which they think about guns. And so what I've asked is that the creative community in Washington, those ad agencies that create these snappy ads and make me buy things that I don't really need, devote that talent in a more constructive way so we can get at the minds of these young people. This informational campaign, I've also called on the newspapers and the television stations to devote to us time and space so that we can get these ads, so we can use these spots, and not to give us 1, 2 o'clock in the morning ads when nobody's watching, but at the time when people, particularly young people, are watching television, so that when they're watching, you know, the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air or Martin or whatever else they watch, and yeah, I watch those things once in a while, so that they'll see these ads and they'll be grabbed by these ads. I've also asked people who have influence over youngsters, entertainers, athletes, to be involved in this program as well. But not only them, community leaders, Jesse Jackson, Mayor Barry, people who have credibility with young people should be on the television, on the radio, as much as we possibly can, and telling these youngsters that it's wrong to carry a gun, and that if you have information about people who are carrying guns, you've got to share that with Chief Thomas and with his people as well. I've also asked the school board to make a part of every day some kind of anti-violence, anti-gun message. Every day, every school, at every level. One thing that I think is clear with young people and with adults as well is that we just have to be repetitive about this. It's not enough to simply have a catchy ad on a Monday and then only do it every Monday. We need to do this every day of the week and just really brainwash people into thinking about guns in a vastly different way. We also want to have a hotline that we will set up and have the number of that hotline that would just go out there, and that would be something that people would have emblazoned in their minds so that when they see a gun or become familiar about the facts of a gun crime, they would call that hotline and pass that information on.
I want to talk about the radicalization issue. Many of you had concerns, or questions rather, about did the female radicalize the male in this case. The answer is we still do not know, but I will say this. As the investigation has progressed, we have learned and believe that both subjects were radicalized and have been for quite some time. Now, how did that happen? The question we're trying to get at is how did that happen, and by whom, and where did that happen? And I will tell you right now, we don't know those answers at this point. Next thing I want to, along those lines, is foreign contacts. We are working with our foreign counterparts to determine as much as we can. It's like any other investigation, but this one is incredibly large. We are attempting to expand that investigation out and build it, and build a picture of each person, the timeline, and ultimately the crimes that they committed. That takes time. We are in day 5, and I want everyone to recognize that. But we're working with our foreign counterparts. We're also working with the FBI's legal attaché offices, which are all over the world, and they are assisting in those efforts with our foreign counterparts. Yes, we do have evidence that both of these subjects did some participated in target practice in some ranges within the metro area or within the Los Angeles area. That target practice in one occasion was done within days of this event. The scope of this investigation I want to discuss very quickly. This investigation is massive in scale. Everyone knows that. We have conducted between, I would say, well over 400 interviews by now of people around this city. And I know some of them have called you and said they've been investigated, or interviewed rather. That's fine. That's what we do, and we'll continue to do as many interviews as necessary for this.
Where I was at right here, we seen there was 3 white men in military fatigues taking off.
What were they driving?
It was a black Impala, like SUV, or yeah.
You think that they might have been the shooters?
Yeah. The way they were driving, yeah. Yeah.
And how many shots did you hear?
Oh, a lot. It was a lot. It sounded like, yeah, like I said, it sounded like a gun range, just shots going off like crazy. It was a lot of shots.
What's your first name?
Juan.
Juan, what's your last?
Hernandez.
All right, thank you so much, sir.
One of the witnesses today is Sally Abdelmajid, who works at the Inland Regional Center, the building where the attack took place. She saw the attackers enter the building, and we spoke to her by phone.
I heard shots fired, and it was, from an automatic weapon. So, it's very unusual. Why would we hear shots? As we look out the window, a second set of shots goes off, and it's just pop, 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 pop. And we saw a man fall to the floor. Then we just looked, and we saw 3 men dressed in all black military attire with vests on. They're holding assault rifles, and they opened up the door to Building 3. And one of them opens up the door to Building 3. He starts to shoot. He just, shoots all over into the room. That's the room that we typically have conferences in. And we just heard more gunshots go off. I got my phone. I reached for my phone. I called 911. And I just hid under my desk. I didn't see any more. I just heard more gunshots go off as I was talking to the dispatch. We went into my manager's office, locked the door, barricaded it. We heard running and things happening upstairs. About 30 minutes later, someone came to the door, knocked on the door, but we didn't obviously answer. And then another 15 minutes later, someone came and took us into a secure room.
Ms. Abdelmajid, can you describe to me in as much detail as you can, what did the gunman look like?
I couldn't see his face. He had a black hat on, and from my view, all I could see was just a black hat and black long-sleeve shirt, possibly gloves on. He had black cargo pants on, the kinds with the zippers on the sides and the big puffy pockets. He had a huge assault rifle, and he had extra ammo. He's coming ready for something to reload. I don't know. He had magazines. I couldn't see what else. I just saw 3 dressed exactly the same.
You're certain that you saw 3 men?
Yes. It looks like their skin color was white. They looked like they were athletic build, and they appeared to be tall.
And of course, we've just learned that one of the suspects was actually a woman.
We need to do this every day of the week and just really brainwash people into thinking about guns in a vastly different way.